Hey everyone, this is Steve from GamersNexus.net, and today we're talking about Rebel Galaxy, which is a space RPG in the truest sense, based in sort of an outlaw-ridden territory out in space. The universe is entirely randomly generated, and it is single player, so it's really nothing like a lot of the space games currently out and currently pending release. Unlike the simulator games, including Star Citizen and Elite Dangerous and all of that ilk, Rebel Galaxy is more of an RPG in the traditional sense. It is more comparable in that regard to something like a fantasy RPG, where you've got your character, you advance them, and you upgrade their equipment, stuff like that. It's more like that, less like an intense simulator. To this end, Rebel Galaxy is very accessible. The controls can be packed onto a controller. So it's not really using the whole keyboard like a lot of simulators do, like Star Citizen does. And there's nothing wrong with using the whole keyboard for your control scheme. It's just definitely very inaccessible to a lot of users who don't want or desire or have ever played that type of game. And it's definitely less accessible to users who are more time limited, like myself, to be honest. Rebel Galaxy, in this way, is a sort of breath of fresh air to the space genre, and this breath of fresh air is largely thanks to the experience of the team behind it. It is being made by two people almost in its entirety, and perhaps in its entirety, I'm not 100% sure on that. Definitely two core people here, Travis Baldry and Eric Schaefer. If those names ring a bell, it is because they are the creators of games like Torchlight by Runic Games, which was a very successful indie Diablo clone, air quotes around the clone there. And then they also have experience with Diablo, the very first one, at Blizzard North, back way before the merger of Blizzard and Activision and all that went down. So they have experience with very successful hack and slash action games that I hesitate to call RPGs. The reason I hesitate to call them that is because they're not really that story driven, if we're honest with the genre of hack and slash. And also the developers of Rebel Galaxy want to make sure that the audience and their potential players understand this is not going to be Diablo in space. It is not dungeon crawling, even though the universe is randomly generated. It's not sort of haphazard, kill it, loot it, sell it. It doesn't take that path. Now you can take that path if you really want to just destroy everything, but it's got more depth than that. And there are aliens you can interact with, just as one would expect. You can help them, ignore them, destroy them, that sort of deal. Pretty standard. As you perform these actions with each of your encounters, you build faction standing and disposition with that faction that they represent. So you can build an alliance with certain space factions, and you can build rivalries with others, and this impacts how your interactions in space unfold as you venture into new sectors and territories of that space. And because the game is a randomly generated universe, it sort of lends itself naturally that this is not a persistent universe online in any sense of the word. It is entirely single player. The marketplace is entirely single player. The economy is entirely single player. It is a contained box for you to play in. And if that's not what you want, then it's probably a good idea to look into the games like Elite Dangerous, Star Citizen, and the many others coming out. And if you want a more competitive versus experience, you should look into Dreadnought. There are a lot of great space titles right now. This does not have to be the one for you. That said, not many of the space titles are single player, and the ones that are certainly not necessarily developed with teams as experienced at delivering an RPG experience as these guys. So Rebel Galaxy, I had about 30 minutes to play it, which is not a lot of time to get a preview in, but with this game, it was enough time to feel very comfortable with the controls, which speaks volumes to its control scheme and the fact that it is more accessible, and I was able to really get a feel of the game and how it would progress. In Rebel Galaxy, you play large Dreadnought class ships at the end game, and you start a little bit smaller, but it is still not a fighter pilot game. You're really not meant to be a solo operative in a jet that does dogfighting. That's not what this is about. It's more about frigate-like combat, similar to the days of naval combat or piracy or Black Flag if you're playing Assassin's Creed. It's got that sort of feel to it, in that your ships will be manned by, in some cases, hundreds and hundreds of crew members, and each of those crew members operates dozens of cannons for broadsides and laser weapons and flak cannons and all of these different armaments on your ship, and they can even be tuned for AI if you don't want to player control them to target specific things on enemy ships. So you could have your flak cannons target incoming missiles, you could have your lasers target enemy weapons on their ships, and so forth. And really what you're going to be doing in combat is sort of playing out semi-cinematic battles where you're taking down dozens of fighter pilots who are solo operatives, or just larger dreadnought class ships like yourself. And as you progress, you gain funds just like any RPG. You buy new ships, you buy upgrades, and that sort of thing. I want to make very clear that this game is a buy once game. You pay for it one time. It's kind of sad I have to say that these days, but you pay for it once. There's no microtransaction behind the scenes, and then you're done. It is not a free-to-play game either, though, so keep that in mind. We're told it's probably going to be about a $20 price point, but I'm not 100% sure if that is finalized yet. To this end, I think it's very noteworthy that Travis Baldry, one of the two creators on Rebel Galaxy, said to me at our meeting that he is not a fan of microtransactions because he wants the developer's role in the game to be to build it, sell it to you, and then get out of the way. He said, do not stand in my way of the experience. And I have to say I agree with that. I do like that approach to things. That doesn't really mean that the gameplay is going to be great, but it is a good philosophy in my opinion. So Rebel Galaxy, this is a game I would play. There are not many of those, if I'm honest. I play them a lot at conventions, but very few of them do I walk away saying, you know what, I would pay for this and play it in my free time. And Rebel Galaxy is one of those. I am a fan of the direction it's taking. It is a high-fidelity, beautifully rendered game for really such a small indie team, and I think they've got the right idea for what they're trying to build. It is not out yet. It will be out sometime this year. Obviously, I only had limited time with the game and with the developers, so I can't speak to a full review. I can't tell you, yes, go buy this, no, don't buy this yet. Stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, and we'll let you know what we think when the full review is out. But in the meantime, it is definitely a game to pay attention to and consider buying once we've got a full review online. That is all for this video. I will see you all next time. Peace.